The fog hung like a curtain across the Oregon cliffs as Claire whispered to herself. Light waits for no one. Her boots sank into the mossy earth, the shudder of her camera echoing faintly between the trees. She was chasing the perfect exposure. Sunlight breaking through cloud, history seeping through decay. The old barrow mill loomed ahead, windows shattered like glass eyes. As she adjusted her lens, her laughter broke the silence, soft and unaware that someone else exhaled behind her. The stillness deepened, a predator's calm. She took a photo, one that would outlive her. In that frozen frame, in the blur beyond her smile, a silhouette watched. Later, when the world examined that picture, I'd say she had captured her own killer without knowing it. Detective Rowan Pierce stared at the photo across his desk, the one that had gone viral within days of Claire's disappearance. Everyone online had seen the ghost in the background, but Rowan didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in timing, light, and human error. Still, something about the figure unnerved him, the posture too deliberate, the angle too perfect. "You're telling me she sent this before she vanished?" he asked Mara, who sat across from him, trembling but resolute. "An hour before," she replied. "She thought she caught something special." The detective leaned closer, whispering almost to himself, "She did." Rain drummed against the window of Mara's apartment as she scrolled through Claire's photo archive, each image time-stamped, each frame whispering fragments of her final hours. The soft hum of her computer filled the silence, broken only by her murmurs. "Come on, Claire. What were you trying to tell me?" She enlarged the final image again, her eyes tracing every pixel of fog and ruin. There, behind the shadow of the mill's door frame, something faintly glimmered. The reflection of another lens, pointed toward her friend. Someone was photographing her, Mara whispered, pulse quickening. The cursor trembled over the file name. EMG 4421, Ghost Off the Mill. She didn't yet realize that the person holding that second camera was much closer than she feared. The Barrow Mill crime scene smelled of salt and iron. Detective Rowan stepped carefully through the mud, his flashlight tracing the remnants of footprints that led nowhere. "She was here," he muttered to the forensics tech beside him. The camera bag sat near a collapsed beam, soaked but intact. Inside, every lens was accounted for, except the wide angle. Rowan crouched, his gloved hand brushing across a broken strap, caught on a nail. She dropped it. Or someone pulled it from her. The sea wind howled through the gaps in the mill's walls, and for an instant he could almost hear a woman's laughter carried through the air, an echo of a moment captured, and then stolen forever. "Many a stolen fortune in works to my stare." Night sank over the coast as Mara parked her car by the cliffs where Claire's vehicle had been found. The wind howled with restless fury, the ocean below a black, churning expanse. She stepped out, clutching her flashlight, the beam cutting across tall grass and twisted roots. "Claire," she called softly, her voice almost swallowed by the surf. The beam landed on something glinting near the rocks. A camera lens, cracked, the same one Rowan said was missing. Mara knelt, fingertips brushing the glass, and froze as a sound echoed behind her, the slow crunch of gravel under someone's boots. She turned. No one was there. Only her own trembling reflection stared back from the car window. Framed by the infinite dark, Detective Rowan Pierce replayed Claire's final voicemail for the 7th time, her voice low, uncertain, whispering through static. "Rowan, I think. Someone's following me. I'll send you what I found, just in case." Then, a sound, wind, maybe, or breathing, before the message ended abruptly. The timestamp, 7:04 p.m., April 17th. He leaned back, cigarette unlit between his fingers, eyes fixed on the photograph pinned to the evidence board. "You always know when the camera's watching," he murmured, "but you never saw who was behind it." The phone buzzed. The lab results had come in. Footprints, 2 sets, one matching Claire's boots, the other barefoot. Mara Lynn stood in the doorway of Claire's studio, the air stale with disuse. Dust clung to everything. Prints, negatives, the faint scent of photochemicals lingering like memory. She ran her fingers along the work table and stopped at a small black notebook titled Light and Memory. Flipping through, she found sketches of landscapes and notes about exposure times, then a line scrawled in frantic ink. He's in more than one frame. The pages after that were torn out. Mara's throat tightened as her phone vibrated. An unknown number, no voice, only breathing. She whispered, "Who is this?" But the call ended with silence, followed by a faint camera shutter from somewhere nearby. At the forensics lab, the hum of machines filled the silence as Rowan watched the technician overlay digital enhancements on Claire's final image. The silhouette took on form. A tall man, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark coat. The face, still obscured, seemed half-turned toward the lens. "Try increasing the contrast," Rowan instructed. As the technician adjusted the image, a second detail appeared. A reflection of a car's license plate, partially visible in the mill's broken glass. The first two digits matched a registration Rowan recognized. Evan Holt's truck. The detective's pulse quickened. "Don't save over it," he said quietly. "We may have just seen the killer looking back at us." Evan Holt's cabin sat hidden behind cedar and rain, the kind of place where truth could rot undisturbed. Rowan approached the door, hand on his holster. Inside, the air reeked of sawdust and turpentine. Evan sat at the table, staring into a cup of black coffee that had long gone cold. "I already told the other cops. I haven't seen her in months," he said flatly. Rowan placed the photo down between them. "Then explain why your truck was parked by Barrow Mill the night she disappeared." Evan's eyes flickered, just once, before his jaw tightened. "You think I killed her?" Rowan didn't answer, just watched him as thunder rolled in the distance like a warning. That night, Mara dreamed she was inside Claire's last photograph. The fog was alive, the air heavy with salt and memory. She turned in slow circles, searching for the mill, for Claire's voice, but every direction looked the same. Then she saw it. The blurred figure, now clear, stepping from the shadows toward her. His face was wrong, familiar, and unrecognizable all at once. "You shouldn't have looked," he whispered, though his lips never moved. She woke, gasping, her laptop still open to Claire's final image. In its reflection on the dark screen, a shape hovered behind her chair, gone the moment she turned. The lab lights dimmed to protect the projection clarity. On the wall, Claire's photo expanded to life-size, the mill stretching like a cathedral of decay. Detective Rowan Pierce stood before it, jaw tight. As digital analyst Lion Ortiz explained, "We've enhanced the background reflection. There is a second person behind the camera. You can see the edge of another lens." Rowan's voice lowered, almost reverent. So someone was photographing the photographer. The revelation hit like a bruise. He stepped closer, tracing the faint shimmer that could only be glass. The more they cleaned the pixels, the less human the shape looked, until it felt like the photo itself was staring back. Mara sat in the precinct conference room across from Rowan, a spread of printed photos between them. "You're saying there was another photographer?" she asked. Rowan nodded, sliding one image toward her. "And whoever it was, they were close. Within 10 feet. Mara studied the enlarged reflection, goosebumps rising on her arms. "She told me once," she murmured, "that the camera remembers things even the mind forgets." Rowan looked up from his notes. Then maybe her camera saw the truth she never did. Outside, the rain began again. Soft, endless, as though the world itself was recording their conversation. At the Digital Forensics Center, the photo was dissected frame by frame, layer by layer, like an autopsy. "We isolated the shadow density," Leon said, scrolling through a 3D model of the mill. "The figure's height, about 6 feet. But look, there's a distortion in the background. a secondary blur behind him. Rowan leaned forward. A double exposure? No, she replied, unease flickering across her face. More like movement. He was closer to her camera with each shot. The timeline of photos scrolled by, showing the silhouette inching forward. He wasn't just watching her, Rowan said quietly. He was closing in. Rowan drove through the storm toward Barrow Mill, headlights cutting through sheets of rain. Mara's voice played over the speakerphone, sharp with fear. I compared her photos from last month. Same blur, same pattern. Same pattern? Someone was following her for weeks. Rowan tightened his grip on the wheel. Then whoever's in that photo didn't find her by accident. The road narrowed as the mill came into view. Lonely, ancient, and alive with wind. For a moment, lightning lit the structure, and he swore he saw a figure standing in the same spot where Claire once had. When the light faded, the space was empty again. Back in her apartment, Mara connected Claire's hard drive, her fingers trembling as she browsed its encrypted folders. Inside one, she found a file titled Reflections Du Di Novidai. The screen filled with a shaky video, Claire's voice narrating softly. Sometimes you don't realize you're not alone until you look back. The camera panned toward a mirror in the mill, and for half a second, another face appeared. Beside hers, pale, expressionless, eyes fixed on her lens. The feed cut to black. Mara sat frozen, whispering. She recorded him. In that dark apartment, something creaked behind her, like a floorboard shifting under weight. The knock on Evan Holt's door came at dawn, the gray light leaking through the trees like judgment. Rowan stood with a warrant in hand, his voice steady but cold. Evan Holt, you're under arrest for the disappearance of Claire Duval. Evan's face was pale, his expression unreadable, as two officers cuffed him. Inside, the air reeked of sawdust and whisk. Photos of Claire still hung on the wall, pinned carelessly between sketches and old receipts. I didn't touch her, Evan muttered. She came here that week, but she left. Rowan's eyes flipped to the coffee table. Claire's missing wide-angle lens sat there like a confession left in plain sight. The interrogation room hummed with fluorescent light as Rowan slid the photo across the table. This lens was found in your cabin. Explain that. Evan leaned forward, eyes bloodshot. She left it there. She came to talk. To apologize. His fingers trembled. You think I followed her to that mill? I didn't even know she went back there. Rowan's tone softened just slightly. You two fought before she vanished. Evan exhaled through his teeth. She was afraid of someone else. Said she kept seeing the same man near her car. Same face. Rowan paused, pen hovering over the report. Did she name him? Evan's silence was answer enough. Mara watched the news report unfold from her apartment, the anchor's voice cold and detached. Local man charged in connection with the disappearance of photographer Claire Duval. Her stomach twisted. She knew Evan wasn't innocent of everything, but something in her gut screamed this was wrong. She reopened Claire's photos, zooming in on the reflection that had haunted her for weeks. It wasn't Evan's build. The shape was broader, the stance more rigid. They've got the wrong man, she whispered. The realization sent her searching through metadata again, where something glitched. A faint coordinate tag that didn't match the mill's location. Rowan stood at the evidence board, frustration clawing at his composure. The pieces didn't fit. Evan's timeline, the missing footage, the erratic coordinates embedded in the files. Why would she alter metadata unless she was tracking someone? He muttered. The precinct buzzed around him, oblivious. Lion appeared in the doorway, holding a folder. Detective, we decrypted her SD card. There's a second image captured seconds after the last one. Rowan's pulse quickened. Show me. The photo loaded slowly, grainy and distorted. But there in the corner was a familiar silhouette standing over Claire's fallen camera. The timestamp, minutes after her presumed death. Evan's release came 3 days later. The charges dropped as new evidence contradicted every assumption. Rowan met Mara outside the courthouse, both drenched in rain. "You were right," he said quietly, "but the real killer's still out there." Mara nodded, eyes distant. "He's hiding her photos. We just have to follow where she pointed the camera last." Rowan opened his umbrella, glancing up at the bruised sky. "Then we start over. From the metadata." As they walked away, a man with an umbrella watched from across the street, his face hidden, his reflection visible in every passing car window. The hum of the police lab filled the silence like a living thing. Lyon leaned over the monitor, pointing to a string of numbers glowing at the bottom of Claire's file. "It's not random. These coordinates lead inland, 20 miles from the mill." Rowan's brow furrowed. "There's nothing there but forest." Lyon hesitated. "There's something else. The timestamp's wrong. Recorded 2 hours after her death." Rowan's stomach tightened. Then whoever had her camera after she vanished took another photo. The realization struck like cold lightning. Claire hadn't just left them a picture. She'd left a trail. They hiked through dense forest, guided only by the pulsing coordinates on Rowan's GPS. The air was thick with mist and pine, the ground soft from days of rain. "She came this far," Mara whispered. "Or someone brought her camera here," Rowan replied. The path opened into a small clearing, where the skeleton of an old lookout tower stood. Rusted steps creaked under their weight as they climbed. At the top, beneath warped planks, Rowan found a small metal box. Inside, Claire's missing memory card. Mara's voice broke. She tried to hide it. Rowan nodded grimly, and whoever found it after her made sure we'd follow. Back at the precinct, the memory card loaded with a flicker of static and corrupted images. Still frames of Claire's camera turning, capturing flashes of light and movement. Then the final image appeared. The interior of the mill, but not empty. The killer's reflection was visible this time, clear and unmistakable. A man in uniform. Rowan's throat went dry. He replayed the footage, zooming in on the shoulder patch. Oregon State Police. "No," he muttered, eyes narrowing. The killer wasn't an outsider. It was one of them. The case had been haunted, not by the dead, but by the living standing in their ranks all along. The name came back through the system. Sergeant David Lorne. Rowan felt his stomach drop. He'd worked beside Lorne for years, trusted him, laughed with him. "He was first on the mill scene," Lyon whispered. "He could have planted evidence." Mara's voice trembled with anger. "He's the ghost in her photo." Rowan stared at the screen, numbly, and he knew we'd find it. The realization was suffocating. Lorne had been leading them from the start, orchestrating every false lead. Rowan rose slowly, hand brushing his badge. "No more shadows. We end this tonight." Rowan parked his car outside Lorne's isolated lake house, headlights cutting through the mist. The woods were silent except for the ticking of cooling metal. Inside, the faint glow of a single lamp cast Lorne's shadow across the curtains. Rowan's gun stayed holstered. He needed answers, not vengeance. "You were there," he said when Lorne opened the door. The older man smiled faintly. "She found something she wasn't supposed to." Rowan's voice cracked. "You killed her." Lorne's eyes hardened. "She took my picture." The silence stretched, heavy with rain and truth, until Rowan whispered, "And now her photo's going to take yours." Rain pounded the lake house roof as Rowan stepped inside, every creak beneath his boots echoing like a heartbeat. Lorne moved with slow deliberation, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey. "You think I wanted it to end that way," he said. "She caught me on tape, caught what I was doing out there." Rowan's eyes narrowed. "What were you doing, David?" The older man's expression hardened. "She thought I was stalking her. I was protecting her." Rowan's voice dropped, laced with quiet fury. "From what?" Lorne's silence stretched until it broke on a whisper. from me. Mara waited in the car down the hill, the engine idling low. Through the fogged windshield, she watched the silhouettes moving inside the cabin. Two men circling each other like past and present colliding. Her phone buzzed with an incoming message from an unknown number. A live feed. The screen filled with Claire's face, recorded from the mill's interior moments before her death. "Here," Claire whispered in the footage. Behind her, a uniformed arm blurred into view. Mara's breath hitched. She looked up toward the cabin just as lightning illuminated the porch, and the same arm raised, reflected against the window. Lauren's confession spilled out in fragments heavy as stones. "She saw me planting evidence at Barrow Mill," he muttered, voice trembling. "I covered for someone years ago. A bad shoot, wrong man." She recognized the insignia on the file. Rowan's jaw tightened. "So you silenced her?" Lauren's eyes glistened, not with remorse but rage. "I tried to make her delete it. She ran. It wasn't supposed to happen that way." Rowan's voice cut like a blade. "You murdered a woman who only wanted truth." Lauren looked up slowly. "Truth doesn't keep people safe, Rowan. Secrets do." Outside, the storm screamed its approval. Mara burst through the door just as Lauren reached for his sidearm. "Don't!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the thunder. Rowan froze between them, torn between duty and vengeance. "He doesn't deserve another shot," she said, trembling. Lauren's laughter cracked like broken glass. "You think justice exists?" The next flash of lightning revealed the gun in his hand, the muzzle glinting. Rowan raised his weapon, eyes locked on his old partner. The air trembled with tension. 3 lives bound by one truth too late to save. Then, in a single deafening instant, the storm swallowed the sound of the gun. When the echoes died, the cabin was silent except for the hiss of rain through shattered glass. Rowan lowered his weapon, chest heaving, the metallic scent of gunpowder mingling with wet wood. Lauren lay motionless beside the table, eyes open toward the ceiling, his own pistol fallen from his hand. Mara moved closer, tears indistinguishable from the rain on her face. Rowan picked up Lauren's body camera, its red light still blinking. "He recorded everything," he murmured. Mara's voice broke through the storm, then let it speak for her now. Outside, dawn finally began to bleed through the clouds, gray and merciful. The storm had passed, leaving the lake wrapped in gray stillness. Rowan sat alone on the porch steps, watching light seep through the clouds like forgiveness. The body camera rested on his lap, the recording red light finally dead. When Mara approached, her voice was soft. "You will have to give a statement." He nodded without looking up. "I've spent my life chasing ghosts, Mara. Turns out one was wearing a badge beside me." She sat beside him, hands clasped. "You stopped him." Rowan's jaw tightened. "No," he whispered. "Claire did. She took his picture, and now it's all anyone will ever see." At the station, Rowan sat under sterile light, a recorder between him and internal affairs. "I discharged my weapon once," he said steadily. "The suspect was armed. I acted in defense of a civilian." Every word felt rehearsed, hollow. The officer across from him nodded, pen scratching paper, and Sergeant Lauren, Rowan stared at his own reflection in the observation glass. He confessed. "The camera will confirm everything." He paused before standing. "Make sure the footage is released publicly." As he walked out, his reflection trailed behind him, just a fraction out of sync, like memory lagging behind reality. Weeks later, the footage aired publicly. The grainy images spread across the news, the mill, the fog, Claire's frightened voice, Lauren's approach. The world called it the photographer's proof. Mara sat in her apartment, the TV flickering across her tired face, tears drying silently. She whispered to the image, "You did it, Claire. You made them see." Outside her window, the evening light caught her reflection against the glass. layered perfectly with Claire's photo pinned beside it. For a moment, the two women seemed to share one frame. One alive, one immortalized, both looking straight at the lens. Rowan returned to the barrow mill one final time. The ruin stood silent, its timbers bleached by weather and truth. He walked through the same doorway Claire had, sunlight filtering through broken panels. In the center of the floor lay her old tripod, rusted but upright, like an altar to obsession. Rowan set his own camera atop it, adjusted the focus toward the horizon, and pressed the shutter. The click echoed, like a heartbeat reborn. "For you," he murmured, "and for every truth that hides in light," the wind answered, carrying the faint scent of salt and closure. Later that evening, Rowan developed the photo in his darkroom. As the image bloomed on the paper, his breath caught. In the frame stood the empty mill interior, beams and dust suspended in sunlight. But in the far background, reflected faintly in a shard of broken glass, was a figure. Female, smiling softly through the haze. Claire's reflection. Rowan smiled for the first time in months. "You got your light," he whispered. The timer beeped, the red light flickered, and the sound of the shutter echoed once more, soft, eternal, like a heartbeat caught between worlds.